We'll call the Committee of Adjustment hearing to order and ask for a motion to accept the agenda. Wadden and Campbell. All in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. Committee of Adjustment Authority. The Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron enacted bylaw number 2, 2013, authorizing the appointment of the full council to form the Committee of Adjustment. Hence, it is by the authority of bylaw number 2, 2013, that the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, that this Committee of Adjustment shall perform its responsibilities. And the appointing of a Secretary-Treasurer. The Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron enacted bylaw number 2, 2013, authorizing the appointment of Gary Long as Committee of Adjustment Secretary-Treasurer. Statement of precedent, that any decision reached by this committee tonight cannot be used to set a precedent. There's the business. And this is minor variance file numbers A01/1 and 4. 225 Cornan Street, part of lots 4 and 5, concession 1, geographic township of Turnberry, formerly in the town of Wingham, now in the township of North Huron, county of Huron. Okay, owners or applicant, Terry, do you have anything that you would like to comment, or?
Well, I think the variance is being asked for simply so we can extend the existing building to accommodate a new full-day kindergarten program. And we've looked at a variety of options, and to be honest, this puts these kindergartens in direct connection with the other kindergartens in the school, and also with the daycare facility that's there. And so we are asking for a variance from the front setback from 7.5 meters to 2.5 meters, so the building can simply be extended. And I think that's really all I have to say. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Purpose and description. Request for relief from the required front yard setback of 7.5 meters to 2.5 meters in order to construct a one-story, 4-classroom, 431 square meter addition to the west end of the existing school. The front facade of the addition facing Cornan Street will be maintained in the same line as the existing school. The front of the addition will be 2.7 meters from the nearest property line. Sally McMullen from the County Planning Department is unable to be here, so she had her comments in writing. So, Gary?
Just on that, just wanted to note that, as you know, that our planner has provided a report with her recommendation. She feels that the variance is minor in nature and meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as per the Planning Act. More specifically, that the variance is minor, that the variance is appropriate for the desirable development of the land, that the variance maintains the intent of the official plan, and that the variance maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. And our planner goes on to say that that certainly the variance is minor in nature, and recommends that the variance be granted. We have received a site plan from the architect. And the variance approval is valid for a period of 18 months from the date of the committee's decision.
Okay. We've had comments from the applicant. Is there comments from any of the others? Okay. Committee of Adjustment members, questions or comments?
I assume now that you're using portable classrooms now, right? And then, yeah, so this is just going to eliminate that.
We currently have 2 portables on site, but the full-day kindergarten program will be established for the school in September, which will require the additional classroom.
Okay, the recommendation of the Huron County Planning and Development Department is approval, subject to conditions outlined in the report from the planner. What is the committee's pleasure? Rob?
I would move that we approve the proposal, the adjustment.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Ruling of the Committee of Adjustment. Minor variance procedure following the public meeting. The Secretary-Treasurer sends within 10 days a certified copy of the decision indicating the last day of appealing to the Ontario Municipal Board to A, the applicant, B, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing if requested, and C, each person who appeared in person or by counsel at the hearing and who filed with the Secretary-Treasurer a written notice, a written request for notice of the decision. If no appeal is lodged after the 20-day objection period has expired and no appeal has been lodged, the decision of the Committee of Adjustment is final and binding. The Secretary-Treasurer shall notify the applicant. If a notice of appeal is lodged, if within 20 days of the Committee of Adjustment making a decision, an appeal is lodged with the Secretary-Treasurer outlining the reasons for such an appeal, and the said appeal is accompanied by the required fee of $125, the Committee of Adjustment no longer retains jurisdiction over the application. If a proper appeal is lodged, the Secretary-Treasurer is required to provide proper notice to the Ontario Municipal Board. So that's all we have. There being no further business before this Committee of Adjustment, the public hearing by hereby adjourned at 7:10. Motion, Vauden and Hallahan, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Call the March 3rd North Huron Council meeting to order. And we have one amendment to the agenda. Gary?
Okay, thank you, Reed. We do have another item for the in-camera portion, specifically identifiable individual, and it's a taxpayer issue.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the amended agenda? Reach? and Bailey. All in favor? Carried. Reeves report. It looks like we have a blood donor clinic coming up on Wednesday, March 5th, 1 p.m. to 7. Definitely have as many people that are feeling well attend as possible. I know that there's a number that would like to give blood, but are having trouble with colds, etc. in this weather. Also, that for big brothers and big sisters of North Huron, there's the bowl-a-thon coming up. I have sign-up sheets and you can contact Dave Shaw as to more particulars, and the bowling will take place at the lanes in Lucknow and Godridge, and as to when people would be able to go and bowl 2 games. Okay. Also, on the weekend, I was at another convention, and that I was at the banquet. I was sitting talking to some people that were just back from, I'll say, an international trip, and they said one thing that surprised them when they were away, that the country they were visiting, that people were on the internet and knew that they were coming, so that they checked things out, and they asked this businessman why he ever would do business in this area. Of all the negative blogs that were on, to me, that shook me a bit. That because he was talking to the people, he was able to explain a number of good things that are happening in the area and how things are moving forward. But people were having trouble understanding if there was as much negativity in these blogs that they were reading, how bad the area was and how much business it was scaring away from even inquiring about coming to this area. So that it's things that if you're just talking to people and you get away from home and realize how business can be perceived, and that I know that sitting on council, and especially with what Connie and Gary have coming forward, the inquiries as to people wanting to try some things, but we can't say anything until they decide and come to this area and plunk the money down into the area. But there's a number of good leads all the time, so that I find it very hard to accept negativity on when I think we have so many things that are going well and everything. Also, reporting on Roma and good roads, the 5, I'll say, brief conversations with people in power all went very well. I think they were all very well received, and that a number of things that can move forward out of that, and that basically in touching base, things like programs at the Emergency Services Training Center that are being expanded, and having the ministry have those on their listings so that when companies or municipalities are looking at getting training done, that we're included along with all the other places for the training and some of those training things that we do that other people don't. I think we'll move on to reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have Campbell and Vauden? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, in the deputations that we're moving to Wingham BIA, Connie, do you want to sort of head off and
Sure.
introduce?
Sure. Want to introduce and welcome members of the Wingham BIA, Jason Chisco, Lisa Herndon, and Doug Ivanhoven are here representing the committee. I believe it's Lisa that's going to be doing the speaking tonight.
Hello. So as most of you are aware, we have been investigating the concept of doing a banner enhancer light. It's a little bit bigger than the banner, so it's not. Sure. Please. I feel like banner. Had assistance too. So, so we are in the middle of a conversation right now with North Huron about safety. The I don't know what is his name. The highway person.
Yeah. So
the highway person wants to make sure that they are not a distraction. He wants to make sure they're not too bright, that they're not flashy, and so they're not flashy. We don't think they're going to be too bright. There's the possibility of 57 poles on the main street in tower. Right now, we're looking at the idea of maybe doing every other pole, so we're looking at 30 lights. If we could come up with $57,000, that would be fantastic. But I'm becoming a realist. So we're looking at 30,000, and that would do every other pole. At the current moment, the BIA has $9,000 in reserve. That's another $2,400 coming. So we have $11,400. Then we have another $5,000 that we're going to take from the BIA fees for this season. And then I think that we'll be able to raise additional money. But we'd like to ask council for $5,000 to go towards the lights. If it comes down to the part where the person from the county and the highways is absolutely fine with the 57 lights, and we can do some additional fundraising, we'd like to ask council for a loan that we would pay back through the fundraising and maybe do all of the lights. But that is a long-term thing, and there is no guarantee because I don't know what the gentleman from council is going to say. So kind of at the point where right now we're looking at 30. Any questions?
James?
What is the total you have now? Like everything that you have raised towards the lights?
20, if we include the 10,000 that I'm asking you for,
Yes.
26,000. And I'm pretty certain that I can come up with, well, we can come up with another 4 with no problems to pay for all 30. It's if we go to the 57, that's when we would require the loan.
Okay.
But right now we would like to ask for 10,000.
If I can just refresh council's memory, when we were doing the budget, there was $10,000 set aside for the Main Street 4 lights. And I had suggested we put that towards the lights for the Wingham Business Association, and Mr. McGowan asked for a presentation from the BIA, the WBIA. And that's where we are right now. So I believe what they're looking for tonight is a confirmation on what we give them the $10,000 that is designated towards the lights for the Main Street. I've got that right. We're not talking we'll deal with the rest as we go along as far as we go to the 54 poles. And I can't remember, maybe Gary could help me if I put a motion forward on that and it's standing on the books, or we need a new motion.
I think it would be prudent to have a new motion on the books tonight. Question for staff, or either Kelly or Donna. The $10,000 that's in the budget, is that currently in there for street lighting for all of North Huron, for both Blythe and Wingham, or is it just earmarked for the Wingham ward?
I didn't have it earmarked for either ward, I just had it for street lighting, knowing that there was 31 lights that were needed, that would have been replaced from the Josephine Street reconstruction. So,
Any comment, Donna?
Excuse me, I'm not clear. The $10,000, is it for just Wingham Ward or general?
it was just put in general for street lighting. Now, I just, like I said, there was 31 lights that were taken off of Josephine Street during the reconstruction. So there was no money earmarked for that. I just put in 10,000.
Therefore, I would think that we would need to consider this in our budget considerations. That's my suggestion.
If memory serves me right, I was to go to the Wingham BIA and request this information and come back and talk about this being earmarked towards the 30 lights that we ripped out during reconstruction were never put back in. And I was given the go-ahead for council to ask that question, but then we basically passed the budget, so there's no more deliberations on budget. So the 10,000 is in there, Brock. And it is meant to replace the 31 lights we had in Wingham originally. And because at the end of that meeting when we decided the budget was passed, this is a follow-up that would have taken place if we were still deliberating the budget.
So then, what we're saying is that we are committed to this now.
I'd like to be after we have a motion, yes. So I'd like to put a motion forward that we put the $10,000 towards the new lighting for the Josephine Street and Wingham BIA.
Projects.
You went blank on that thing. Yes.
James Campbell seconds. Further discussion? Brock?
I think it's a very attractive design, and I think it, even on half of the lighting poles, it will make a very impressive display. I think it's a worthy design.
Yes.
Well, all in favor? Carried. Lisa, is there anything else the BIA would like to discuss, or anything upcoming that you want us to know about?
Our AGM is 2 weeks from Thursday. I believe that's the 17th of March? 13th of March, a week from Thursday, sorry. And that will be at the Hot Stove Lounge. So we would like to see as many BIA members out as possible. We'll be approving the budget at that point, and we'd just like to see as many local business people out as possible.
7:30 to 9.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for bringing your presentation, and a number of people will see you on the 13th.
Thank you for your support.
Business arising from previous. Council, anything arising from previous meetings? Okay, and health and safety is just the report. Okay, to the administration. Okay, in department reports, we'll move to point 2, administration.
Okay, thank you, Reeve. I've provided council with a report regarding the West Ontario Board of Directors and the fact that currently North Huron does not have a representative on the board. With the passing of Ken Saxton last year, North Huron's position on the board is vacant. I had a chat, last week I had a chat with Lisa Milne, the president and CEO of West Ontario Power, to get some direction from her, some guidance from her on the best way to fill this position. She noted that it's really up to the municipalities as to the process that you want to follow, whether you want to appoint a councillor or a municipal staff person, or put an advertisement in the paper and receive applications. So municipalities have the discretion, the authority to fill this position. So I've outlined some information that she passed along. I've also outlined or included the 2014 meeting schedule. I think it would be well advised for council to appoint somebody on an interim basis who could go to the next West Ontario board meeting. The meeting schedule shows April 9th as the next meeting. In fact, that was just changed late last week to, I believe it's April 16th. So it would be helpful to have somebody there representing North Huron, at least on an interim basis. But it would be advisable for council to consider what sort of process you'd like to follow to appoint somebody who could be on the board, say, for 2 to 3 years.
I would be willing to do it on an interim basis until we got the process together, say 1 or 2 of the meetings, but I would hope we would have somebody else chosen to do a longer term.
Brought this up at the meeting we talked about it previously, and Ken's done a wonderful job. Ken was head over the PUC for Wingham before we amalgamated, and West Ontario took over our PUCs. In some cases it was bought out at Blythe, I believe, for a cash deal. In other places we took our ownership in West Ontario. I believe there should be a councillor on this, and I believe it should be the term of the council as a representation. It's a very important piece of our council, and there's a lot of money involved, and there's profits and dividends, and we could sell or not sell. And I believe it should be a direct link with council, whether it be the REIV or a councillor. So I'm going to put it forward that a councillor should sit on this. And again, when I say that, including the REIV.
Ray?
So can I proceed to the motion to nominate somebody for this position?
You may.
I would nominate Bernie Bailey.
Is there a seconder? James Campbell. Rob?
I would nominate Reeves Vincent.
I'll second that.
Any further nominations? And so, reverse order is the or should I only have taken the one nomination and voted on that and then, okay, that we Because it wasn't announced that it was an election, it was a motion, we have erred in taking two parts, or two nominations under the one. We will do the first nomination as a motion and vote on it and see how that goes. Bernie?
So do you and I vote, or do you and I stay out of the vote?
Everyone involved.
Everyone would vote, I would believe. And so that we have the motion to have Councillor Bailey as our nominee, or as the candidate for Director of Wisterio. All those in favor of Councillor Bailey? 3. This is going to be interesting, isn't it? Okay. Those opposed? So that's, because there isn't over 50%, that would fail.
Right.
So we are back. Do you want to put the same motion forward?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Council's familiar with this motion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That fails also, so we will, Councillor McGowan, make a decision at the next meeting. We will have to have somebody appointed at our next meeting to attend. So this will definitely have to come back as an agenda item on our next meeting.
Yeah, that's good.
Just a question, if it's a tie at that point, I'm going to be in Papua New Guinea when that vote takes. You could end up with a tie vote, I'm not coming back.
Okay, we will have CAO have a determined way, if there was a tie vote in that, whether it would be drawing of lots as prescribed as, say, a couple of ballots in a hat type of thing, and the winner would be drawn as following along with municipal information and protocols. Okay. Okay. Director of Corporate Services, Deputy Clerk, has put together what we as councillors have cost the municipality for the past year. So that, and that's one of the pages in the background for tonight. Moving forward, point 4, Director of Public Works, gravel tender. We need a motion to allow Kelly to move forward on it. Anything you want to say, Kelly?
Just looking for a motion from council to be able to advertise for the gravel.
You're moving, right?
Yes. Second.
Okay, Reach second. All in favor? Carried.
This is for the second.
that there's, the update, is there anything on the department update you want to say, or just as stated in your report?
Just as stated in my report, unless there's some questions.
Okay. Okay, Gary has brought forward the landfill contract, and do you want to bring forward decisions to be made there?
Well, I can speak to it, or Kevin, did you want to speak to the landfill issue, particularly the East Wallenosh landfill, looking for council direction, but also providing the staff recommendations?
Yeah, I'm looking for some direction from council. The East Wallenosh landfill site is slated to open May the 3rd, because we've closed it for the winter months. I personally have not received any feedback about the closure, and feel that at this time that we could possibly keep it closed and non-active.
Right?
I can, when you say non-active, I mean, were you thinking more than one day a month?
No, I was talking about if on direction from council to keep it closed, but non-active, meaning that we won't close it, we'll just not have it open to the public, but keep it an active landfill site, in case we do need it.
Last summer we had it open one Saturday a month.
2 Saturdays.
Two Saturdays.
Yeah. So what does it entail to having it open even one Saturday a month? Kelly, does that mean we have to bins, or what do we have to do?
Well, I just think that we were doubling up on the service. We do offer curbside pickup to all of North Huron. And we have the landfill site on Curry Line that is open 3 days a week. It's just like it was almost, you know, from the numbers of the people that were using it, doesn't warrant have it open. That's in my opinion.
So can you come up with a cost that even if it was open one day a month, that what it's going to cost us through the summer? Okay.
Thank you.
Bring that. Appreciate that.
James.
And excuse me.
Okay.
And 2 days too, or twice a month too, a month, okay?
James?
I would think the ratepayers would have had a little more input if they had realized that it was going to be closed as of May the 4th. Because we gave them the assumption that we were going to be reopening it again come next summer. And now all of a sudden that's not going to happen.
Well,
I think
it'd still be to be decided, but yes.
Yes.
Okay, that, a number of them will know that it will, in 2 weeks' time, it will be discussed again, so that we may hear a lot more before then. Councillor, or Deputy Reid?
I've been arguing this since I got on council, and I guess I would like to know the total cost of running it, plus the cost of cover for the landfill. And I question whether or not we can justify the amount of cover that we need and the hours that we pay people to keep it open, plus the extra testing that we require when we already have a landfill site that is open 3 days a week. And so I would like to see the total numbers on keeping this open 1 day a month, and the cost of operating it for that 1 day a month. And I need somebody to prove to me that it's justified doing it.
Rock?
I agree with Deputy Reach, but I think that to take this step, either way, we need to send out a notice publicly so that everybody knows that the issue is coming up and that it's going to be decided one way or the other. I don't think we can just rely on people who read the newspapers or whatever, but I think we have to be proactive and let everybody in East Wallenosh know about this.
James?
I think 50% of the people that were using the landfill were also coming from Blythe.
Okay. I'll let
So
them know.
it opens up a whole new picture.
Yeah.
Okay. That's definitely something for next meeting's agenda as well. Okay. Okay, for the rooftop maintenance, you would like a motion passed by council on that too?
Yes. Yeah, I propose we use 90,000 for the surface treatment, 85,000 for the gravel crush delivered to the township roads in South African Township.
Do I?
Because it wasn't passed as a motion, but it was brought forward to council last meeting.
I will make that motion.
You're seconding?
Yeah.
Bailey seconds that. Any further discussion?
Well, this is kind of exciting for me because I've been working on this a while for the START program to get some tar and chip in the township, and there's been a lot of people's waited a long time for the start this sort of program. I hope it carries on. This is the most recent, what am I going to say, got most recent roads count where Burns Ross did a study on this, Kelly.
That's the most current one I have. That's correct, yeah. And that's where the decision comes from, is through that. It's not picking and choosing
No.
different, like, you know, because this guy lives here or whatever. It's to do with the road
I'm
stuff.
sure there's a lot of people who would like
Oh.
front of their place, but
Yeah.
as long as we know that this is the highest traveled piece of road and it's in good shape, and the subsurface is good, so I would make a motion.
I'll second the motion and then I'll speak to it.
Already with council Bailey seconding it. You would like to comment though?
Yeah, I think the Reed Road is a good road to do, partly because it goes to the landfill site, and so it'll make it easier for people from all over the township to go to the landfill site without getting their cars dirty. And it's a well-traveled road because of the landfill site.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay, moving to new business. Point 1, Blythe Arts and Culture, 1419. Request for permission to block off Blythe streets for long table dinner culture event, August 24th. Deputy Reed.
I'll move that we support the closing off of Queen Street and Blythe and the other streets as required for the long table event on August 24th, 2014.
I'll second.
Okay, Rich and Gladden. Any further discussion?
I would encourage all of council to attend.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Point 2. County of Huron Planning and Development Department, read the approach for requiring archaeological assessments for the planning applications. Anybody want to make comments? Gary?
Just some background here, Reed. This This document has been circulated to the lower tier municipalities, and it's to be used as a guideline for determining when an archaeological assessment would be required for applications under the Planning Act. So the county is asking that municipal councils adopt this document as a guideline that would provide some direction and guidance for when we receive development applications. This would be a guideline for us, for our planner, for our chief building official, to know when an archaeological assessment would be required.
Bob?
I move that this be adopted.
Do we have a second?
For discussion purposes.
For discussion? Discuss, please. Councilor Bailey.
Gary, this is one of the things we're doing up at the north end of town, right? On the land, it's the Biax land and in the Morris Turnberry land.
Yeah, there's Wing area industrial land.
Yeah, and we're also doing it on the 2 pieces of land we have for sale at North Durham.
There haven't been any studies or assessments completed on any lands. We're just waiting to get confirmation or notice from the province on the red application that was submitted. Anything we've received in terms of feedback thus far has been very positive. If Morris Turnberry and North Huron receive a favorable response from the province for the red application, that funding, combined with the funding provided by the 2 municipalities, would allow the 2 municipalities to retain consultants who would complete the studies and assessments that would be required on the lands that have been identified as developable, as development ready. But to date, no studies or assessments have been completed. So we would need to confirm, we need to identify the lands and sort of confirm the lands that are in play.
And this really runs into downloading again. This, by the sounds of this, it's being handed to the county and the county's handing it to us. Am I right on that? It's dead. Like, it's not a matter of do you want to, do you not want to. This is coming, so do I understand that properly?
I'm not sure if it's downloading or not. I think we know that for the industrial lands and the 2 municipalities that could be characterized as development ready, we know that the planning department is going to say, we want you, the developer, to complete a noise study, an archaeological assessment, a noise impact study, a servicing options strategy. So the purpose of the strategy is to get those assessments, the required and necessary assessments, completed out of the way to help streamline the approvals process.
One other question. Is this going to affect our residential development, the Wingham Creek development? Have they done the study, or will this do this study if we pass this now?
I'm certain that the owners, the property owners, the developers have completed an archaeological assessment as part of their, on Wingham Creek, as part of their development.
So it's not going to hold up anything we're engaged in now?
No.
Councilor Vaughn.
I may be wrong. One of the things that attracted me to this is the fact that it seemed to me by their indicating where the possible sites are where archaeological digs would possibly be necessary, it gives us an edge in the fact that we can say to a prospective developer, we're pretty sure that this is safe, and we may not. But if it's outside of that territory, then we wouldn't be able to make that assertion. But it would give us a little bit of a head start on advising a prospective developer on what the future costs would be in terms of justifying the venture.
Deputy Reed.
One of the things that I don't see addressed in any of the archaeological assessments are if we're required to do these and we find something of archaeological significance and it stops development on the land, who pays for the land that isn't developable? Who is ultimately responsible for the loss of developmental land and the cost of the loss of an industry or a residential development to the municipality? And does the site become preserved, and then who is responsible for preserving that site forever?
I think that would all come back to significance. Probably, should there be further study of the property, and the way it always is, whoever is the official owner would cover the costs in the long run, one way or another.
It would really have to be judged on a case-by-case basis. There's so many variations on this. As the Reeve has said, it'll be whoever owns it. If somebody's already bought the property, then he's for it.
If the archaeological studies are already done, barring that they dig into something, a developer could go ahead on it if there was a study already done. And it's one of those things that, as far as I'm concerned, there's a number of things that might be nice, but you can't live in the past all the time either.
So I just have one more question. This sort of blends in with the other proposal that we've had regarding the shovel-ready procedures. I think it's complementary to that. So I think there's no reason for us not to approve it.
Any other discussion? Those in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay, moving to council information. Council may bring any of these items forward for information or for discussion. James.
I'd like Donna to talk on number 2, please.
Yes. Same here.
This on page 1 or what, sorry?
Item 2, Ministry of Agriculture and Food, Ministry of Rural Affairs.
Right. Well, of course, we're very disappointed with that news that we did not receive the capital funding for Mill Street. As you know, we've tried under every grant program going for the last number of years to obtain funding for Mill Street. And this was, again, for phase 1. So that was a $500,000 project that we were asking $378,000 on. As we expected, they were overwhelmed with applications, and there was far more applications for funding than what they have. So I'm not sure how they picked out which ones were successful, and the list actually hasn't been published yet. I expect it will be out in the next day or two. Right now it's confidential who did get the funding and for what projects and how much that they were able to receive that. So next step on this, of course, is to still try to move forward because there isn't that much that we can't encourage a lot of further development in Blythe until we get this storm sewer replaced. So Gary has scheduled a meeting for Public Works and the utility staff and myself and himself to sit down and see if there's any way that we can still tackle phase 1 of this project on our own. Of course, we could never tackle phase 2 without without additional funding because, you know, it's between $1.5 and $2 million. So anyway, we will bring a report back to you as to if we can come up with a way of proceeding with phase 1.
Rob?
I don't know if you would routinely do this or not, Donna, through the Reeve. Ask them for some clarification
Yeah.
as to what weak spots, if any, were in our proposal, so that it will be a learning situation for us for the next time. But I suspect that they would probably have to turn down a lot of good applications with the limited funds that they have.
And that's their answer every time, is that they just were over-subscribed to.
But can they point out any enhancements that we could have made?
I have asked them that with any application that we haven't been successful on, and they really don't, they've never given us any suggestions, but certainly we'll try again.
I'll maybe quickly comment on point 3, the county of Huron notice of decision on the official plan amendments. Good to see that taken care of. The number of people will be proceeding with things that will be possible due to some of those changes.
I'd like to refer to number 5, the Lupus Foundation. I think that's a terrible disease. It's fairly rare, but it's not well understood by many people. I think it would be worthy of support and drawing attention to it. And I'd also like to remind staff about the Autism Day that's coming up in May. We passed a motion to observe that day, and it would be publicity then. I just want to make sure that we don't forget about that. So I make that motion that we support the Lupus Day of May 10th.
Seconder? Councillor Bailey, seconds. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Receive, read, and file.
So moved.
Deputy Reeve and Councillor Bailey, all in favor? Carried. Committee reports, point 1, wide BIA. Any questions on that? Or extra comments, Steve?
Self-explanatory.
Rob?
I'm wondering when the wrap-up of the Blythe 365 project?
That's on the agenda for the next BIA meeting. And we're still waiting.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, moving to point 2, Wingham BIA, minutes from February 20th. Any questions? Or minutes, Bernie?
No, I'd just like to add to with the members that were here at 7, and nice to see everybody come out and meet everyone at the Hot Stone Lounge, whatever that's called again. Just get councilors too. You guys should get to meet some of the guys on the main street, the folks on the main street. Keep using the term guys. I know that's politically incorrect. Some of the folks on the main street.
Business associates.
Yeah. I think it would be a good night for everybody, so I hope to see you guys out there. I can use guys there. We're all guys.
Okay, thank you. Gary, did you want to, before we do the bylaw, did you want to make comment on the meeting investigator?
Okay, sure. I did receive, I should note for council that I received an email from Trevor Syke. This email was addressed to both the clerk and the Reed. And Trevor was looking for more information on, or for clarification on the closed meeting investigator service, and wanted to confirm that North Huron Council was aware of the fact that the investigator services provided by the ombudsman are provided free of charge. And I can't speak for council, but it was based on my observations. I believe the council was aware that the ombudsman does not charge for those services, and that council accepted the clerk's recommendation to retain Local Authority Services Limited, who transfer their authority to Amberley Gavel Limited. Amberley Gavel Limited provides closed meeting investigator services to about 135 municipalities. They do charge a retainer. They also charge a per hour fee if there is an investigation. I think it's noteworthy that LAS and Amberley Gavel work very closely together to provide education and training for municipal councils with respect to closed meeting provisions and openness and transparency and good governance practices. So I think there's some value-added services there that LAS and Amberley Gavel provide to municipal councils that the ombudsman does not provide. I know that council accepted the clerk's recommendation at the last council meeting to go with Local Authority Services Limited, and the bylaw before you tonight is a bylaw to authorize the reading clerk to sign an agreement between LAS and North Huron. So I just wanted to note that I received that email.
Rob?
I'd just like to say that I did a lot of my own investigation on this. Initially, I thought that it was a no-brainer. We would choose the ombudsman because it's a free service. But in getting feedback from a number of communities, there are some drawbacks that people have experienced. My biggest objection to the ombudsman's approach to this is what I consider false advertising, in that almost every publication that comes out of the office with regard to closed meeting investigation, he indicates that all of the communities in Ontario that don't use their services are just shopping for an easy way out. And that is absolutely false. More than half of the lower tier municipalities in Ontario use LAS services. I don't know how many use other services that are available, as we did prior to this past year. The other comment that I have from, and this is from a number of sources, is that when there is a, let me go back a little bit. When there is a complaint lodged on the basis of the use of closed meetings, sometimes there is no violation. Sometimes there are some minor procedures that have been overlooked by the group, and they get that corrected. And sometimes they've been deliberately going behind closed doors in order to do business without people knowing about it, which is criminal. But there's a very, very strong feeling amongst many communities that even when they're not guilty of any terrible obstruction or mismanagement of the closed meeting privilege, there seems to be a lot of publicity drawn out by, particularly by the Ombudsman's office. I think they're trying to sell their services, and I think that in a sense that's almost a conflict of interest in terms of, so that's why I voted to use LAS, because I'm familiar with some of the people in the organization that have been set up to do their closed meeting investigation, and they are absolutely honest and very direct, and they're not going to give any community a free ride in terms of investigation. They are as reliable and as honest and as objective as the Ombudsman's office. They're not a second-rate outfit. And I think that the $330 a year is a small price to pay. And we don't intend to ever slip up and have a closed meeting violation ever. We've never had one so far, and we don't intend to get into them if we can avoid them.
Any other discussion? Okay, bylaw number 15, 2014. Being a bylaw to authorize the legal clerk to sign on behalf of council an investigator's service agreement between the corporation of the Township of North Huron and local authority services. And Rodden seconds. Any discussion? This is 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
All in favor? Carried.
Just one added note.
Okay.
There are costs involved, whether you use the other costs that involve, whether you use the Ombudsman or another service, and that is the lawyers that you have to hire to defend yourself against the Ombudsman or against the other investigator. Because even if you're guilty, you have the right to be represented. So that's just.
Okay. Moving to council reports and inquiries.
On Saturday night, I attended the ambassador pageant for North Huron and the Wingham Homecoming project for the summer, and where they were selecting Miss Wingham and Little Miss Wingham. And there were 18 contestants, and I think every one of the contestants could have won. The show that they put on and the performances were second to none, and I think that they should be congratulated. The committee that put the program together did a phenomenal job and should be congratulated. Now the speeches, the impromptu speeches that were presented by Miss Wingham and Little Miss Wingham are all going to be on Eastlink. And I think everyone should go to Eastlink and look that up. The candidates spoke about what is good about Wingham, what I like best about Wingham, and what Wingham has to offer. And for all of the people that can be negative about what Wingham has to offer, it was a real eye-opener to see what our young people are saying and the good positive things that they say about Wingham. And going further with Reed Vincent's comments at the start of the meeting, maybe the people that are blogging negatively about Wingham should listen to the young people and hear what they have to say. Maybe it would help change the minds. Thank you.
Council comments. Okay, then move to the clerk administrator's report.
Okay, thank you, Reeve. Just wanted to follow up on Councillor Gladden's question about the Blythe BIA 365 project. I can confirm that Connie and I have had conversations with Mike Pullen about ways to move that forward, and I believe there will be something coming forward at the Blythe BIA meeting on Wednesday.
That's good.
It's our recommendation that the Blythe BIA pass motions with respect to the funds as well as the status of the projects, some of which are not finished, as you know. So we're deferring to the Blythe BIA to get motions passed.
That's good.
I also wanted to mention that later this week I will be meeting with Nancy Mickey and Scott Toussaint to follow up on the servicing meeting we had with Morris Turnberry on February 10th. We'll be meeting to review the report that Scott prepared that was in the last council agenda. We're going to be talking about some ideas that we can bring back to the respective councils. Any ideas or solutions are not binding, of course. These are conversations at the staff level, but I will update council at the next meeting on the meeting that we have. I also wanted to note that at the Reed mentioned the Roma conference that we were at last week, there were many delegations regarding the reduction in the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. We didn't touch on those during our delegations, but other municipalities had many meetings to talk about the reduced grants. There were also many delegations that spoke to the Minister of Community Safety regarding the OPP billing model that's been proposed. So hopefully the province has noted the concerns, the real concerns felt by small rural municipalities and the impact that this billing model will have. I think it's also noteworthy that the updated provincial policy statement was released last week, and it's noteworthy that they're emphasizing economic development and sustainability, that's a theme that is part of the new PPS, which I think is very encouraging. And I know our planner will be updating us later in the spring on how PPS impacts North Huron, but the early comments are positive in terms of the fact that it took into account the concerns and issues of rural communities. So I think that's very positive for us. I also wanted to mention that I received an invitation, or council has received an invitation from Huron County Warden Joe Steffler to attend the April 2nd County Council meeting in Goderich, and then there's a lunch invitation following the County Council meeting. So I will distribute this to you, but please note that the County Council meeting is for April 2nd, and Warden Steffler has invited you to attend. Also, just a reminder that tomorrow at 3:30 at the Blythe District Community Center, we're having an event there, a photo opportunity to announce the partnership between the township and Sparrows Propane for the new Olympia for the Blythe Arena. So that's very exciting. So I know many of you have confirmed your attendance for that. 3:30 tomorrow at the Blythe District Community Center. Connie, did you have anything?
Actually, sure. If I could, I would just like to mention on behalf of the Wingham Homecoming Committee that they are having a public meeting on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock at the North Huron Museum. All of the committee leads will be there, sort of updating what they have done so far for the planning for homecoming and looking for public, I think, input. And so Wednesday night, if you're available, that would be great. 7 o'clock.
Can I just ask Gary? Gary, I sent you a couple of emails with some ideas I have. And you mentioned that you're going to be meeting with Nancy Mickey and Scott Toussaint. Will those ideas be floated by them, or this is just strictly what the staff is thinking now on that meeting? Like, if you had opportunity to ponder some of those, I guess where I'm going to go with this is I'd like to know if I can get that information moved forward in a reasonable time, or is it going to, my question's going to be sitting on the back burner?
The purpose of Thursday's meeting is to review the common goals and common interests of the two municipalities. Is there common ground to see if we can reach some sort of conclusion, some sort of agreement between the two municipalities. We're going to discuss some ideas, but this will be driven politically, and I welcome feedback from council and ideas as to how we can conclude an agreement with our neighbors. And I'm sure that Morris Turnberry and their administrator will be getting ideas and recommendations from their council as well. So I would certainly be happy to pass along any ideas that you have.
So I've emailed them to you, and I'll maybe speak to you tomorrow then to do a follow-up. Thank you.
And I think it's important for the council consensus. So
Yeah, I understand that I'm speaking as a counselor. I understand that, and it would be nice to have a council consensus. I understand where you're going with that, but I still, in the meantime, somebody has to keep pushing things along.
That's it. That's good.
Okay, public gallery questions and/or comments, and please try to stick directly to topics that we have had previously in the meeting. If you need further information directly on those topics. Kenny?
To Kelly, through yourself, that $10,000 that was earmarked for lights, was that, you said that was for 31 lights in Wingham, but was it just earmarked for the Wingham ward? You said you hadn't really earmarked it. Were there other projects that were being considered, or?
Not at that time, no.
Okay.
I just put 10,000 in for street lighting.
Throughout the municipality? Okay. A little bit of a follow-up. What happens if something needs to be replaced outside the Wingham ward now?
For street lighting?
Yes.
I have budgets for each one of the wards
Okay.
that have street lights.
Trevor?
Yes, Reeve, sorry. Just want to follow up to the email that I had sent to Gary. Part of the reason I sent that email is some of the conversation, obviously dollars and cents is a huge discussion in any municipality these days, but value-added stuff needs to be incorporated when making any decision. And the conversation, I was here for the conversation of the LAS, and of all the conversations I heard, I didn't hear any of the conversation or the information that I got from Gary with regards to the other factors that might be a reason why we would select them over a free service. And I think it's important. I think it's important that people understand all of the facts and all of the information when making a decision. I'm not saying you've made a decision without knowing those information. Maybe you did. I'm just saying that value-added decision and not always just dollars and cents makes sense. So that was really why I sent the message to Gary, to get, for my personal understanding of why would we pick something from a dollar standpoint that we're going to pay something when we had if it was apples and apples, why would we pick the one that has money associated to it when we did? So that was my kind of reason and comment for that. My other question with regards to the West Ontario Board of Directors. So what I read there is it's for a 2 to 4 year or 2 to 3 year term. So if it is a councillor or a REIT, whatever the case may be, let's be the devil's advocate. What if that person isn't on council after October? What happens to that seat? Like, obviously, I just want for my own information.
Do you want to answer or do you want me to? Go ahead. That what we're looking at is basically the parameters of who goes initially. Is something that person that is sent would probably be reevaluated by the new council fairly quickly, being that the person as an interim person might be serving less than a year initially. And then we'd have the 2, 3 year, or possibly running right with the 4-year term of council. But the parameters of that appointment aren't put together yet, as my understanding. That what we're really doing is sort of an interim person till we basically figure out exactly how we're going to advertise to people showing an interest, and that we've been asked for a person at least interim, and that they've said for continuity of the board that 2 or 3 year terms would be preferable. We haven't really went through and discussed that, and that I think we're best doing an interim until we get to that stage. Brock, did you want to?
It's my understanding that this doesn't have to be a councillor or a head of council. In fact, the previous representative was not a councillor. He was chosen because of his background with PUC, as I understand it. So anything could happen. There could be somebody from this council appointed, and if that person is not re-elected, not back, but that person could be designated to stay on as the representative, or they could decide to change. It's a pretty much a wide open kind of thing. It's not, there's not a fast, hard and fast rule.
Trevor, where I was going with that is our representative should be on a 4-year term, the same as he's elected. It should be a member of council. And when the council changes, then the following 4 years, there would be a new councillor on there. Again, as Brock pointed out, the head of the PUC, the previous PUC was the perfect person to have, but we don't have any ex-PUC guys now, so I don't think it's something that should just go to somebody in the community that's because he's a good guy. When people elect us as councillors, they're depending on us to make decisions. They're depending on, and they elected us for the fact that they believe we can do it. And I think this is a very important position, and it should be held by whether it's a Reeve or a different councillor, and it should be a 4-year term. And when you're not elected on at the end of the 4 years, there should be a new person or the same person if you're re-elected. But no, I don't think you should have a lifetime commitment of that.
So, sorry, I agree with everything you've said. What I'm reading from the board of directors of the West area was determining the time frame. From what I read, they say 2 to 3 years or whatever. I just want to know that you can dictate how long you're going to be there. Like if you can go, yeah, interim, I want to be only there 2 years and then I resign. Well, great. But if I'm a councillor and after I'm not elected, I choose to still be on there, am I really giving the right information for the municipality as a whole? I don't know if I am or I'm not. But the board of directors of West Area was making that determination of how long, not us. Sorry.
The request was a possible 2 to 3 year term. We make the decision as a council in North Huron.
Yeah.
That was their suggestion.
That's correct. So that clears that up. So thank you.
This question's for Kelly. The tar and chip, what's the timeline for having all the roads done? Is this like a 20-year project or?
Depends on funds that are available to tar and chip.
Yeah, so for the road study that you had to do Reed Road, what year was that study done in?
2008.
2008. And how much do you save on a tar and chip over a 10-year period? Do you have that cost? Would I be able to get that off of you?
Take some time, but I could
also about the Wisteria position and everything else. I think when you, it was an interim, you said it was going to be an interim position and all, and then Ray, I think, made a motion to nominate Bailey. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, then you want to be put on a nomination and everything else too. So, and I know that Jim's leaving for Guinea. There's going to be another vote again, but is it real? Like, can Gary make the tie-breaking vote?
No. It has to be elected councillors that involved in any vote.
So if it comes back to a tie again?
That the municipal act has ways of breaking. Drawing of lots is the most popular. Basically, put two names in the hat or whatever, and the one drawn out will be the successful candidate.
Number 4, we'll close the dump. I know that you said you had nobody making complaints that the dump wasn't open during the winter, but it was well posted. Everybody knew it was only going to be closed only for the summer, until the summer. So nobody really said anything, but I think that a lot of people that live in Jim could attest to this, like when you guys tried to close it, I think it was last year or the year before. It was a real big, there was a real big upheaval over it and everything else, because a lot of people do use it. I know on Tuesdays, I leave at 4 in the morning to go to Toronto, so I can't get out the garbage, so I have to take it down to so I got to come all the way to Wingham to do it. Like, it's part of our taxes. We should actually really keep the dump open. And I know you're going to roll like, yeah, we all pay taxes, and there was a big upheaval, and you could really attest to that. There was a lot of people really upset and everything else. And people in Blythe, I know some people that live in Blythe, they actually use it too. So, you know, to come all the way from Blythe to go to Wingham, it's just not extra added cost and everything else when it's just right there. So I think we should keep the dump open instead of actually closing it. You know, if it's $100 difference, hell, I'll put it on my tax bill. I'll pay the $100, whatever the difference is. But to actually close something, like, it doesn't really make any.
That will be coming back in a report, so that
oh, I understand that.
The dollars and cents will be coming back.
But Kelly did mention that he didn't get nobody. Like, if I knew that it was going to be closed when they actually closed it permanently, I would have been on the phone, right on the phone with you, right on the phone with Ray, to discuss to my councillors in my ward, saying, why are we closing this? So, you know, I think it's a bad decision to actually close the dump.
That decision hasn't been made. It's being put on and will be definitely brought back for debate. So that, thank you for your opinion that you're not in favor of it, but we will be discussing it when we have the dollars and cents as to what it costs to keep it open 1 day a month and 2 days a month, and the decisions will be made at that time.
Sure. And I guess this is the final question is about all this negative stuff that's coming out, logging and everything else. But there's a lot of good stuff that happens on this log site that you don't give credit for. And Brock Bodden actually made a good comment, like when the roads were closed and all that, at nighttime, they don't have night closures on, but you can go onto this blog and it'll tell you where the roads are closed. I was stuck out of town, and the radio station didn't have the updates because they were closed. I went onto the site and found out that 86 was open all the way to Wingham, so I could actually come home. So that's a positive, but everybody keeps going on about negative and negative. But you know, there's negatives in every newspaper. Just because one person says something doesn't mean it's the whole community. But if you're gonna slander somebody, like, do it, but don't hide behind your desk and just look over at a certain individual. It's a blogger. Everybody knows it's Wingham Free Press, but you're allowed to say what you want to say. Just because you don't agree with it, you shouldn't have the ability to slam somebody, because what you're doing is you're taking his freedom of speech. So is it fair for me to take away your freedom of speech to slam him or slander him? No, it's freedom of speech. You're allowed to. It's not hurting nobody. That's all I got.
But freedom of speech is the thing that we have. I try not to say negative things about people. I try and be as positive as I can. And that if we all try and be positive, maybe there'd be a little less negative. Thank you. Gary?
Reeve, I just wanted to come back to your question, Jenny, about the lights, the street lights. Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the $10,000 was part of the street lighting budget that hadn't really been earmarked for anything in particular. I think as Kelly said, or somebody, if and when there is a problem in Blythe with one street light or a couple street lights, there's money in Kelly's budget to fix those problems. This specific money hadn't been earmarked for anything in particular. I think we were looking at a possible LED retrofit program and other possibilities for energy conservation and efficiencies and so on. So, but I think there was discussion earlier that the municipality, as part of the reconstruction project on Josephine, was planning to make a contribution, make an investment in street lighting or other related features for the main street. But there was the commitment from the municipality to do that. I think there was the expectation from the business people in the downtown, the municipality would be coming up with some resources. Kelly or Donna, can you back me up on that? Hopefully.
Yeah, it wasn't earmarked for anything, as we said, the $10,000, just that there's all sorts of new programs coming out for capital replacement, which this was specifically identified as a capital item, capital dollars rather than the maintenance dollars. So as Gary and Kelly were saying, if there's any maintenance issues, that's through the street lighting maintenance budget, not the capital budget.
So this is considered a capital project then? These lights right here?
Yes.
Considered capital?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving forward, next on the agenda is our in-camera session. And do I have a motion to go in camera? Callahan and Campbell, all in favor? Carried.